Today we're diving into a diplomatic earthquake that the Western press barely whispered about, a massive energy and trade realignment that could reshape global power for decades, and a bold message from two rising powers that Washington absolutely cannot ignore. And believe me, I've saved the most fascinating twist for the very end of this episode. I spent years inside one of the biggest media organizations you've probably heard of, watching editors kill stories that didn't fit the approved script, watching facts get bent to serve agendas. I couldn't do it anymore, so I walked away. Now I'm here in Europe, independent, no corporate overlords, no boardroom approvals. I tell you what's actually happening, not what someone wants you to believe. And speaking of what's actually happening, if you appreciate this kind of honest, unfiltered reporting, do me a favor, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and seriously consider becoming a sponsor of this channel. We spend hours, sometimes days, fact-checking every claim, cross-referencing sources, making sure we're not feeding you propaganda or lazy clickbait. That work costs time, energy, resources. Your support keeps us independent and keeps us digging. And trust me, stick around until the end, because what I'm about to reveal in the final moments will completely reframe everything you thought you knew about this story. So let's get into it. One of the most significant geopolitical events of this entire week just unfolded, and if you relied on mainstream Western outlets, you might not even know it happened. Russian President Vladimir Putin just completed a state visit to India, and this wasn't some ceremonial handshake tour. This was a strategic recalibration between two massive powers who are refusing to play by the old rules anymore. Putin hadn't set foot in India for 4 years. His last visit was way back in 2021, and the world has changed dramatically since then. The timing of this return tells you everything. Since 2022, India has quietly become one of the most important players in preventing Russia from falling completely into Beijing's orbit. Think about that for a second. While Washington tried to isolate Moscow, New Delhi stepped in and gave Russia an alternative partnership, one that doesn't require total dependence on China. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Under Trump's second administration, the diplomatic pressure on India has been intense, unexpected, absolutely relentless. And what did that pressure accomplish? It pushed India right back toward engagement with China on one front, and it pulled India even closer to Russia, one of its oldest regional allies, on another. Washington's hardball tactics basically backfired. During his arrival, Putin met informally with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on December 4th, just a relaxed personal conversation before the heavy diplomatic machinery kicked in. The next day, December 5th, they sat down for formal negotiations at Hyderabad House in New Delhi. These talks went on for more than 2 hours, covering everything from energy to trade to technology. Putin also met with President Draupadi Murmu, underscoring that this was a full state visit, not just a working meeting. And here's the thing, Modi didn't hold back in praising the relationship. He publicly thanked Putin for his friendship, for his commitment to India, for repeatedly giving momentum to their partnership over the past 25 years. Modi made it clear, this isn't a transactional relationship. It's a deep strategic bond that's only getting stronger, and that bond is driving Washington absolutely up the wall. Now let's talk outcomes, because this visit produced some genuinely massive agreements. Russia and India committed to expanding their economic cooperation all the way through 2030. Bilateral trade, which has already surged in recent years, is now targeted to hit $100 billion. Let that number sink in. That's not a symbolic goal. That's a reshaping of trade flows on a continental scale. But what most people are missing is the truly seismic shift happening underneath. 96%. That's the portion of transactions between Russia and India now conducted in national currencies, not dollars. 96%. This is de-dollarization in action. Real, measurable, accelerating. In the context of the BRICS bloc, this is an enormous leap away from Western financial systems, away from the leverage that Washington has used for decades to enforce its will globally. Russia and India are building an economic relationship that doesn't need Western approval, doesn't run through Western banks, doesn't rely on Western infrastructure. They also discussed creating a free trade zone between India and the Eurasian Economic Union. If that happens, you're looking at a commercial corridor that links South Asia, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe in ways that completely bypass traditional Western-dominated trade routes. It's a tectonic shift, and it's happening right now, while most analysts are still debating last year's headlines. Energy is another huge piece of this puzzle. Despite all the sanctions, despite all the Western pressure, India remains a major buyer of Russian oil and gas. And during the visit, Putin personally assured Modi that energy supplies would continue without interruption. Russia can deliver at scale, at prices that no Western supplier can match, precisely because of those sanctions. So in a weird twist, the sanctions designed to punish Moscow have actually handed Russia a captive, grateful customer base in the global south. But wait, it gets better. Russia and India are moving forward with a major joint pharmaceutical plant in Russia's Kursk region. Now, India is a global powerhouse in pharmaceuticals, especially in vaccines, generic drugs, and anti-cancer treatments. This plant represents serious bilateral investment, serious technology transfer, serious long-term integration of their industrial bases. It's not just about trade. It's about building shared infrastructure, shared supply chains, shared futures. And here's something that should make Western investors sit up and pay attention. Sberbank, Russia's largest bank, just announced plans to triple its operations in India. They're treating India as a top priority market for the next 20 years. Meanwhile, the two countries agreed to explore a 30-day visa-free regime for tourists. That's a rare move between two non-Western powers, and it signals a level of trust and openness that goes way beyond typical diplomatic niceties. Oh, and one more thing. Putin officially launched RT India during this visit. That's a direct media channel aimed at giving Indian audiences access to Russian perspectives, bypassing Western editorial filters entirely. Whether you think that's good or bad, it's a clear signal that Russia is investing heavily in shaping narratives, building soft power, reaching audiences that Western media has taken for granted. Now, on the diplomatic front, India reaffirmed its call for a long-term peace framework on Ukraine. India isn't picking sides in the simplistic way that Washington demands. Instead, New Delhi is positioning itself as a potential mediator, a constructive voice that both Moscow and eventually even Kyiv might actually listen to. That's strategic positioning at its finest. And here's the larger context that everyone needs to understand. We are watching the old liberal world order collapse in real time. The US-dominated, rules-based international system that defined the post-Cold War era is fragmenting, and what's emerging is something fundamentally different. This meeting between Modi and Putin is a signpost on the road to a genuinely multipolar world. Back in 2021, analysts were already speculating that Russia and India were trying to revive a modern version of the non-aligned movement. That movement, for those who don't remember, was created decades ago to help smaller and mid-sized states avoid getting crushed between superpowers during the Cold War. India later built on that concept with its Voice of the Global South initiative, which seeks to prevent the world from falling into a rigid US-China binary. The idea is simple but powerful. Instead of two dominant power centers dictating terms to everyone else, you build a system with multiple centers of power, multiple voices, multiple pathways to development. And that's exactly what we're seeing unfold right now. Russia and India are doubling down on economic cooperation, on investments, on trade, not just for their own benefit, but to create models that their regional partners and allies can follow. As Putin's visit wrapped up on December 5th, the message was unmistakable. Russia wants to avoid over-reliance on China. India wants to avoid being squeezed by either Washington or Beijing, and both countries are betting that a multipolar world, one where power is distributed across many actors, is not only possible but inevitable. If Washington is smart, and that's a big if, it will recognize that India's balancing act between Russia and China isn't a threat to American interests. It could actually be a tremendous asset. Because here's the thing. Both Moscow and New Delhi are aligned in wanting an international system that's more flexible, more representative, more reflective of a world where the West no longer calls all the shots. They're not tearing down the global order out of spite. They're building the foundations of a new one, defined not by blocs or hegemonies, but by negotiation, pragmatism, and mutual respect. The footage from this visit, the warmth, the respect, the sheer amount of ground covered, it all sends a very clear signal. This partnership is real. It's deepening, and it's here to stay. Washington has a lot to think about. Hopefully, it also has some ideas about how to improve its own approach to the global south, because the old playbook of threats and ultimatums clearly isn't working anymore. So let me bring this all together. Putin's visit to India wasn't just a diplomatic formality, it was a declaration. Two major powers with different cultures, different systems, different histories are choosing partnership over rivalry. They're choosing sovereignty over submission. They're choosing a world where multiple voices matter, not just one or two. And they're doing it with concrete agreements, massive trade targets, financial infrastructure that doesn't depend on the dollar, and a vision for the future that doesn't require Western approval. If you found this analysis valuable, if it gave you a perspective you're not hearing anywhere else, do me one last favor. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment with your thoughts, and if you're able, consider sponsoring us. Independent journalism like this, where we dig deep, connect the dots, and refuse to parrot official narratives, it doesn't happen by accident. It takes work, research, integrity. Your support makes it possible. And seriously, thank you for being here, for watching, for caring about what's really going on in the world. I'll be diving even deeper into this on my Substack and Patreon, so head over there if you want more. Until next time, keep questioning, keep thinking, and keep watching closely because the world is changing faster than most people realize. Before you go, I need to ask you something personal. We are living in an era where the truth is becoming the most endangered resource on the planet. You saw the deafening silence from the mainstream media on this story. That wasn't an accident. Breaking through that wall of silence, verifying the numbers, and connecting the dots without a corporate script is exhausting, difficult work. But it is the most important work I have ever done, because I walked away from the big networks. I don't have their safety net. I only have you. If you found value in what we uncovered today, please hit that like button and subscribe. It's the only way we beat their algorithms. But if you are able, please consider becoming a sponsor of this channel. Your support allows us to spend the necessary time fact-checking every single detail to ensure you never fall victim to fake news or manipulated narratives. It keeps this channel independent, honest, and alive. I truly appreciate every single one of you who stands with me in this fight for clarity. Thank you for watching, keep your eyes open, and I will see you very soon.